Get ready, Wise Pineapples, because today's guest is a living legend in hospitality. Mark Irgang has spent over 3 decades lighting up this industry with his bold leadership, contagious energy, and a deep passion for service. He is a force behind the brand new 360 room Marriott at JFK Airport, and he just took home Marriott's Hotel Opening of the Year and the Mustang Award for overcoming toughest challenges. Now, he has led iconic properties like the 2,000 room Marriott Marquis in New York City. He shaped the Courtyard brand as a regional VP and now serves as the president of Skull International USA, representing over 1,400 tourism and travel pros across the nation. Woo! He's a Cornell hotelier, a global mentor, and a true yes minded leader. There is so much yes in this conversation. You're not going to believe it. And there's so much delicious advice, great stories, and just you're going to be so inspired. And there's so much here. I'm probably going to have to make it 2 episodes, but you're going to love it. So, Mark's story is full of grit, grace, and game changing insights. So, let's settle in because we're about to dive into one of the most inspiring journeys in hospitality. Please welcome the unstoppable Mark Irgang. Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippi. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Mark, you said yes to leaving the iconic Marriott Marquis to take on one of the lowest ranking courtyard hotels in the brand as the general manager. I know that had to be a very bold and scary move for so many reasons. Now, what gave you the courage to make that leap? And were you trying to prove something to the world or to yourself?
So it's very funny. The story of how I ended up in that job, which I didn't share with you, is
Oh,
actually, yeah, that's the interesting part of the story. Is I was actually on my honeymoon. And I'm on my honeymoon, and of course, you're in the honeymoon phase. So I'm at the beach, and my wife forgot her sunglasses. So of course, I'm the new husband. So I said, "Hey, let me run all the way upstairs, like a mile away from the beach to get you your sunglasses." So I go upstairs, and what's in my room? My phone has a flashing light, and I call for the messages. It's the GM of the Marriott Marquis, Jurgen Giesbert, European hotelier, amazing, brilliant guy. And he says, "Mark, I just want to let you know, while you were away, I posted you for a job and you got the job. And it was to be the resident manager of the full service Newark Airport Marriott." And he said,
oh,
"Congratulations. I just wanted to share with you that I posted the job for you because I know you wanted to be a, assistant GM." He goes, "I just want to tell you on your honeymoon, you don't have to call me back. Congratulations." I come back, I bring my wife the sunglasses, and I'm like, "I just got promoted. This is great." All right, fast forward. It's now Sunday night. I'm back from my honeymoon. I get a call from, I'm front office manager at the Marquee. I get a call
okay.
from the resident manager of the Marquee, my boss. And she said, "Mark, I have bad news. I just want to let you know you're not getting the job at the Newark Marriott as the resident manager." I go, "What are you talking about? The GM called me and left me a message while I was on my honeymoon." She said, "Yeah, he jumped the gun, and what happened is Marriott as a company decided to roll out this new initiative. And the initiative was because they were having trouble finding GMs for courtyards. So they said,
Mm.
let's find like the top 25 department heads in Marriott full service, and let's convince them to make the move, because they wanted to make sure that the
Oh,
first 25 who go over are going to be successful. So
yeah.
they would encourage other future moves to go. So I was one of the 25. And so they said, "Oh, we want Mark to be the GM of the newer Courtyard Marriott. And in turn, we're going to take the GM from the Courtyard Marriott." And they gave him my job. They gave him the
Oh,
resident job at the Newark Marriott. So he took my job, and I was supposed to take his job. So, of course, I was taken back by this whole thing because, not that I was a full service snob, but I was very
I get
nervous
it.
and like, you know the story. And anyway, so my boss, thank God she gave me the bad news because she said when you come to work tomorrow, the GM now has to tell you the bad news, and they know you could react many different ways. And to her credit, she obviously calmed me down, and I was much better prepared to answer that, to deal with that.
Right.
So I had to meet with the GM, the corporate HR person, because they were scared I was going to freak out. And anyway, they convinced me to do it. I told them I would do it. I got some more money out of them, which was great. Okay. So now I say yes to this thing. But to answer your question, I was giving you the background.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that though. I
I'm
didn't
now,
know that.
yeah, yeah. So now I'm saying to myself, I'm going to the 254th worst courtyard out of 259 at the time. And I'm saying to myself, did I piss somebody off? That they're sending me to Newark, New Jersey. And by the way, the hotel's across the street from a prison. And it's like it's just really in a, just I mean, it's at the airport, but there's a prison across the street. Anyway, so
Wow.
I walk into the hotel day one, and it's just a mess. It is just a mess. I noticed that, when all the people in the morning leave to get on it's an airport hotel. So they're all morning long, they're getting on the airport shuttle. By the time it's 9 o'clock, the lobby's destroyed. There's coffee cups, there's
Yes.
paper, all this stuff. All right. I notice also our cleanliness scores are terrible, friendliness scores are terrible, check-in speed scores are terrible. So, after observing, as you should as a new GM, don't make any rash decisions. I give it a couple of weeks. Now I bring in my team of, instead of the marquee where I had a team of 50, now I have a team of like three or four. I'm
Right.
at a courtyard. And I say to them, I said, guys, I said, I know I'm the new guy here. I said, let me share some of my observations. So I grabbed the housekeeping person and I said, let's start with you. I said, explain to me why there's no housekeeping person visibility in the presence in the lobby during the morning, during 6 to 9. And her exact response was, well, I don't want to disrupt all the people in who are waiting for the van because that's our busiest time. And I don't want to vacuum. I don't want to clean because I'll get in their way. And
Right.
that's my answer to your question, Mark. And I said, no disrespect. I have a completely different approach to that. And she said, what do you mean? I said, not only do I want you to have a housekeeper there between 6 and 9, I said, I want you to annoy every single guest that's sitting in the lobby. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, when you vacuum, I want you to hit every person's leg by the couch and tell them to lift their leg up. And she thinks I'm like bizarre. And I'm like, well, I said, of course, I don't want you to hit them. But I was making a point that I want them to feel that we are obsessed with cleanliness. So
Right.
I want her to clean it. And I said, Courtyard had those glass tables and stuff. So I said, when they lift their coffee mug up or coffee cup and the ring of water is there, I said, I want you to clean that thing every time they lift to take a drink. I said, I want them when they get in the van now. All I want them talking about is how obsessed this hotel is on cleanliness. So we started doing that. Our cleanliness scores went up 30 points. All right. Number two, check-in speed. Our check-in speed was like the third worst in the company. So I grabbed the front office person and I said, all right, tell me how you do check-in. They tell me, I said, let me tell you what we're going to start doing. I said, don't you pick up people at the airport every day? They go, yeah. And I said, when you go and pick them up, do you ask them for their name to confirm they're staying here? They go, yeah, the driver has an arrivals list. So I said, okay, why don't you just take it one step further? When the driver picks up the person, why don't you just have the driver confirm that they're picking up Mark Irgang, John Smith, whatever. So now we can prepare for the check-in. We could pre-check
Mhm.
them in.
Mhm.
And when they get off the van, we could be standing there going, hey, Mr. Irgang, Mr. Smith. Okay, so the first day we're going to try this, I actually get on the van and I'm sitting in the back like a customer, but the first person we're picking up doesn't know I'm the GM. So we pick up the person. It's one person. Let's call him John Smith. So we pick him up. Now the driver and me and Mr. Smith are driving back to the hotel. I still do not tell him I'm the GM because I'm just witnessing. I want to see how it goes.
Right.
He gets out of the van. Five people come out of the hotel and say, Mr. Smith, it's so nice to see you today. Welcome to the Marriott. Here's your key. Here's this. Here's that. And he literally goes like this. He sticks his hands out and he goes, everybody freeze. He goes, do not move. And I turn around and I introduce myself. I go, Mr. Smith, I'm Mark Irgang. I'm the GM. I said, did we do something wrong to upset you? He goes, no, but I was here last week and this was not happening. He said, what is going on here? So I explained to him, I said, hey, I'm the new GM. I said, we're trying to provide better service to our valued guests. I said, do you like this? He goes, I like it. It's just a little overkill, but I like the pre-check-in. He says, all right, carry on. And he leaves and he goes and says, so the point of that is I told my staff the fact that the first person we did this with recognized something was different means we're doing the right thing. We kept doing that. Our check-in speed went up 30 points.
I
And then
love it.
the last thing was friendliness. And this is my favorite part of the story is I noticed that people were complaining, and we, believe it or not, we had because of the prison and Newark, New Jersey, we had gated parking, so to protect the cars from being stolen, all that stuff. So I said to my team, I said, the last thing we need to do, like hotels have lobby ambassadors, things like
Hmm.
that. I said, why don't we have a parking lot ambassador? And they thought I was insane. And I said, look, we have a captive audience. They all have to stop at the gate. I said, why don't we have someone who will stand at the gate, hand out Nutri-Grain bars, and say thank you for staying with us? They looked at me like I had three heads, and their exact response was, "What idiot are we going to get to stand out there every morning?" I said, "I'll volunteer to do it." And they
Right.
go, "Perfect." They said, "If you want to do it, go ahead." So this was like on a Friday. I said, "I'm going to start it on Monday when I come in." So, of course, what happens? I walk in Monday, it is pouring rain like you've never seen. So I'm in there, and my managers walk in. They go, Mark, I am so sorry. I go, what are you apologizing about? They go, we're so sorry that you're not going to be able to start your parking lot thing today. And I go, oh no, I'm going out there because I knew I had to prove a point. If the postman could deliver, I can deliver.
Right.
So they said, Mark, there's no way you're going out there. I mean, it was pouring, it was bad. So I said, no, I'm going out there. So I did go out there. Of course, now picture the scene. I have a rain gear. I have a hood on, I have a basket of Nutri-Grain bars. So what's really funny is, and I don't have a name tag because my raincoat is covering it. So the people who were leaving, coming out, they probably thought I was like a Girl Scout person selling cookies. And when I explained to them at the gate, I said, "Hi, I'm Mark, the GM. I just want to thank you for staying with us." They thought I was nuts. And I
Yes.
said, "Can I go?" And it's pouring rain. I said, "Can I offer you a breakfast bar?" I'd say 5 out of 6 just took off and said, "Thank you, no, thank you." One person would move their window down like this much, and they said, "Just stick it in." So I'm sticking in the bar in between the windows. Anyway, but this is the part you're gonna like. Something miraculous happened that day that I never expected.
Mm.
I'm poor. Yeah, I know you like those parts to the
Yes.
story. I look at the side of the hotel and I see housekeepers who are cleaning rooms looking out the window at this scene. Now they don't know it's me because I didn't tell them.
Oh.
So now they just see somebody interacting with the cars and handing out the bars. So now it's like 2 hours later, I go in, I'm soaked, and I go into the break room. I take off my stuff, and my housekeepers were on a morning break. They look at me and they go, Mark, was that you in the parking lot? And I said, yeah, that was me. I said, you saw me? They go, yeah, we saw you while we were cleaning rooms. They said, what the heck were you doing? I said, I was thanking our guests for staying with us. I was handing them breakfast bars because they're the ones who pay our paychecks. And they said, wow, that's amazing. And they said, are you going to do this every day? I said, I'm going to do it, every day when I'm here. And if I could put like an invisible caption over all of their heads, it would say, if Mark, the GM, can do this for our guests, we could probably clean rooms better. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, the entire culture of the hotel changed in one day. They started cleaning rooms better. And the funny part of the whole story is by like 2 months in, everyone was begging me, can I give out the bars in the parking lot? Because they knew how exciting it was, and the guests were writing on the GSS scores, hey, the GM was so great, he's handing out bars, blah 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 blah. And now people were I was actually, not only did I allow my managers to do it, I was having housekeepers volunteer to do this.
Yes.
So it was great. So I'd have a housekeeper handing out the bars, and I said, I'll take a couple of rooms off your board today, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So by saying yes to that job, which originally I probably would never have accepted,
Mm-hmm.
it literally changed the trajectory of my career, because we had so much success at that hotel that I got offered to be regional director of the Northeast, and that's where I met Liam Brown. So it all comes together.
Yes, our paths are so similar. But I have to break down a couple things here.
Yeah.
One, I this is so similar to what I talk about all the time, and that what would being that if you are not uncomfortable or even a little embarrassed about
Hmm.
your service, then you're doing what everyone else is doing. So the way you know you're really standing out is when you're feeling that little uncomfortable or little embarrassment about what you're doing. And all of those things are things you just said everyone felt like. But the key thing is here, and this is what I've said all along, is that as the leader, I get out there and do it first. You got out there and did
Right.
it first to show them, hey, I'm willing to do this. And then pretty soon you show them that this is fun and it's okay, and they want to join you. We did a similar thing where we did curbside check-ins for during the key prime times of check-in, and we would be out there. In the beginning, they're like, "You're crazy! I'm not doing that, Christine." They all want to hide behind the island or behind the desk,
Right.
right? And so I did it first with them, and then and then pretty soon they're like, "We don't need you anymore."
Right.
So
Yeah.
that is the key. Be that leader that will get out there and do it first, and be a little embarrassed first.
And to quote Christine Trippi, it was a mindset transformation.
Yes.
And to quote you again, it was definitely 20% strategy, 80% mindset transformation.
100%. I love that you brought that up. 100%. I love all of these examples so much. And I love how you one maybe not voluntarily took that position,
Mhm.
saw how much you grew from it, saw because of what you actually accomplished in it, how it
Mhm.
got you to that next level. So many amazing things happen when you say yes.
Mhm.
Now, one thing I worry about, for example, for myself, probably have more full service experience in my past than I do
Mhm.
select service. But because select service was so much of my last, say, 10 years
Mhm.
in branded properties, um, that's how you can kind of get seen. So, did you go through any difficulty of being put back in a different box now? You're now a select service guy.
Yeah, no, no.
Okay.
Actually, the opposite. I think people realize that the skills you use as a leader are transferable
Good.
anywhere. And also, I mean, the hardest thing was for me myself to have that mindset transformation because now instead of me being a little bit of a full service snob and having other people do like there were days I had to drive the hotel van. There were days when I had to help him in, help in the kitchen, like make food. And it's a very humbling experience. I mean, to
Yes.
be honest, it's very hum but I think everyone should go through it. And most, no disrespect to the old time full service people, but a lot of the full service GMs, when I started, they had never in their imagination ever considered going to select service. And guess what? I was probably one of those people until I said yes
Yes.
and made the decision to take a chance and do it. And I was confident in my leadership skills, but when I walked into the 254th worst courtyard, let me tell you, I was challenged for sure. And
Hmm.
like you said, the leader has to, just change the
You,
culture and
yes.
get everyone to buy into what you're selling.
Yes, and that is the if
Hmm.
we're taking away something here from this, and this is what I've preached about my red zone turnaround, and you are
Hmm.
saying the exact same thing about yours, is the first step is
Hmm.
turning the culture, loving your people.
Hmm.
Everybody, when I was taking over that courtyard, told me you're going to have to turn over the entire team. It's toxic. And
Yeah.
when I got there, I realized no, just the person who was let go, the leader who was let go before this was the toxic
Hmm.
person. Everyone below were diamonds and they just needed to be loved. They just needed to believe that we could be beautiful. So,
Yes.
yeah, so that is a huge thing. It starts with your culture. It starts with your culture.
It does, and from that transformation of going from we went from 254 to the top 75 in the company. We went up the most ranks of any hotel in Courtyard, and because of that, and I think I maybe mentioned this to you in my notes or not, I can't remember, but they had a GM convention in San Antonio, and there were at least 500 GMs, if not more. I think it was multiple brands. And I actually walked into the meeting like a second, like just as it was starting. I was late for myself because I'm usually an early person.
Yeah.
And Bill Marriott was speaking himself, and he said, "Hey, I just want to recognize 10 leaders in our company for doing certain things." And I was like, I mean, there was no particular order, and I was number 7. I didn't know he was going to mention my name. He goes, "Is Mark Irgang in the room?" And I'm in the last row, and I'm like, "Yeah, Mr. Marriott, I'm back here." And he said, "Here's Mark. He's a Marriott GM. He gets up every morning and he stands in the parking lot thanking our guests, handing them breakfast bars." And he said, "I think that's amazing." And he said, because of that and other changes, his hotel moved up 175 spots. Let's give a round of applause to Mark. I became an instant celebrity for 5 minutes at that time.
Right.
And no, but it just goes to show you something that seemed as stupid as handing out bars in a parking lot that nobody wanted to do, that I took on myself, changed the trajectory of my career.
100%. And it was that exposure that gets you to
Yep.
the next level. Your
100%.
performance is only an invitation to the table. It's the
Correct.
exposure you get that actually gets you to those next level positions and whatnot. So that's another
Yep.
great lesson from this is that you
Yep.
can there's probably 100 people in the company, probably more than that, that did
Mhm.
the same thing we did, that you did, but it's then getting that recognition and exposure. So
Mhm.
that's a huge one. I love that. Now let me ask you this, going into it, you kind of felt above it, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But then you
Yep.
came to it, you were humbled, you loved it, you felt so rewarded. What were some of your key learnings? Like you were a front office manager in a very big hotel, but it's
Mhm.
isolating. All of a sudden, you're doing it all, from HR to budgets, all of it. So, what was maybe a couple key learnings you achieved from moving into that full service or select service GM role?
Yeah, I mean, I just really took away that, we have so much to give, and that one person can make a major difference. And
Mhm.
I don't mean that in an arrogant way that I changed
No.
everything. It was just that one leader can change the culture like you described with your hotel.
Yeah.
And it's not only getting everyone to believe in what you're doing, but like you said it before, you have to walk your talk. You
Yes.
could talk about things that you want to do, but that day when it was raining, if I had said to them, "Hey, I'm not going out today," that could have changed the whole, vibe. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I went out there, even though I got soaked, it proved a point to everyone. And let me tell you, if I didn't go out, those housekeepers would never have seen me, you
Right.
know? So that took on a whole different effect. And I do think it was a very humbling experience because, to be honest, when you're the front office manager at the Marriott Marquis, it's very easy to get an ego, very easy to be a little arrogant. You're the front office manager, the largest Marriott in the world. Everyone's calling you in the company, "Mark, what do you do there? What do you?" And
Yeah.
it's just there's so much to learn when you're actually in a much smaller operation because
Yes.
you're literally involved. You're not managing 100 people, 200 people, as much as you're in the trenches. You're in the trenches, so
Mm-hmm.
you're doing and managing. So just so many valuable takeaways. And then also by implementing these housekeeping things with the vacuuming in the lobby and the check-in and cleaning better and the bars and thanking our guests, it shows you by making just a few changes in an operation, you could literally change the trajectory of the guest emotional experience. And we did that as a team,
Yeah.
and everyone started seeing the change. And the other thing is, as you're seeing the change, you got to celebrate that. I'm a big rah rah guy,
Mm.
as you know, and as you
Yes.
are. And anyway, and I still do it today. And when our scores go up 1 or 2 points, I'm like, "Guys, that's awesome. You went up 1 or 2 points in 3 days. We can go up 10 points in a week." So you just got to keep the momentum. And if you are not the biggest cheerleader as the GM and leader of an operation, then you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. It takes cheerleading. And when I'm talking to leaders who are not like us, natural cheerleaders, I
Hmm.
always say, especially like for your huddle, you want the energy and whatnot. But I always say there's somebody on your team who is that person.
Hmm.
Let them be your CEO, chief energy officer. Bring
Right.
them, let them help you, okay? Because you're
Hmm.
great at this. Get someone who's great at that because you need
Hmm.
it. And you can still deliver that cheerleading in a very your way, but then you can have somebody who's got the energy for it. Yes, yes. I love that.
Liam gave me a great quote. He said, "First, do the necessary. Second, do what's possible, and soon you'll do the impossible."
Yeah.
And I love that quote. And the whole turnaround at that courtyard is that in a nutshell. We did what was necessary. We did what was possible, and then I mean, these guys were like so demotivated. Like when you're the fifth worst of anything at a 259, you feel like you're a major failure. And you have to come and it's like you're part of a team. You got to pick up the members and say,
Yes.
guys, we could do this. We can get better. And I always attribute things to like losing weight and stuff. It's so like when you're trying to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, seeing that finish line is almost impossible. But when
Yes.
you start to lose 2 pounds and 3 pounds and 5 pounds, and all of a sudden it becomes a reality.
Yes.
And I didn't share this with you, but I've gone through some physical transformations too. I lost 50 pounds. I became a health coach, and I still do that on the side.
Oh,
I do health coaching for a company called Optavia. You may have heard of it. And I think it used to be called MetaFast years ago.
oh yeah, I did
But
MetaFast.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so I became a health coach, and I still help people today. So it's just to throw on more things, Christine, to our
You
plate.
are never ending. You are
You know,
involved in everything. I love you so
everything,
much. I love
everything. I'm trying to keep up with you.
Oh, no, please. You are, oh, you're
Yeah.
something else. Okay. And there's so much more to get to. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's recap this really quickly for the people out there. If you are a full service leader and you're thinking select service is beneath you or whatnot,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
so much to learn. One,
Mhm.
you get a taste of all the areas. Sometimes people will take a position like that of a select service GM and realize, I love HR or I'm
Right.
amazing at numbers and I'm going to go
Yeah.
into the accounting realm of it. So
Right.
you get to taste it all. When you're in a full service department, if you're a department
Right.
head, you're
Mm.
siloed. You're doing
Correct.
one thing. You don't get a taste of everything. So that's one real big benefit of select service.
Great point. Great
Yes.
point.
Now, if you're in select service and you want to move into a full service, um, this is what I really want to ask you because you're
Mhm.
also a person that's that hiring manager for this.
Mhm.
What do you believe most hiring managers get wrong about leaders wanting to move from select service to full service?
It's a great question. And I'll be honest with you, before I made that move and did that, I probably would have not hired a select service
I
person because I would
know.
have said, yeah, and that's why you asked me that question.
Hmm.
But no, it's a great question. But I'm being honest, I probably would not have hired them to be full transparency because I probably would have thought as especially coming from the marquee and all that, I probably would have thought like there's no way this person will be able to keep up with me or my team or whatever because we're doing 1,700 check-ins and checkouts every day at the marquee. And this
Hmm.
is someone, and again, my Newark, just so you know, the Newark Airport Courtyard was probably one of the busiest courtyards in the United States. So if
Oh,
you're coming from a regular courtyard that's 110 rooms, that does $3 or $4 million a year. I mean, at that time, the Marriott Marquis was doing 250 million a year. So, you're on a whole different world. And
yeah.
and anyone who's ever worked at the Marquis said it's like work, it's a company within a company. So we were like our own company at the when you think about a one hotel doing $250 million, that's probably what my entire courtyard region, maybe did
Right.
of 38 hotels. So yeah, I would definitely be hesitant to take on someone from a select service. But the learning, to your
Right.
question, is now I'm a lot more excited to talk about select service because guess what? The select service manager probably works harder than the full service
Way.
manager because one day they walk in, they're doing check-ins, the next day they're making eggs, the next day they're driving the van, the next day they're
Yeah.
cleaning rooms.
Aside
That
from that,
full
they're doing the budget. They're implementing all the new systems. They're doing their revenue managers,
yeah,
their sales man. They're doing it all. So they have such
exactly.
a well-rounded, like you came from the marquee, but you probably didn't know anything about housekeeping. You probably didn't know anything about doing the budget, or
Yeah,
not anything, but
right.
that was probably a great learning for you.
No, you're right. You're definitely further removed from those kind of things.
Yeah.
100%. You're right. Now I'm a Courier GM. I am doing the budget myself.
Right.
And you're right. So you learn that, and that makes you a much better
Mhm.
prepared to be a department head at a full service hotel, maybe an exec committee member. And listen, I was GM for 2 years there. Like I said, I got the biggest promotion of my life. Now I'm running 38 hotels. And then I had probably the best success of my career in those 2 years as the regional. And right out of the movie Top Gun, where they asked Tom Cruise at the end of the movie and they say, "Where do you want to work?" And he goes, "I want to go back to Top Gun." And the guy goes, "What, are you crazy?" They
Yeah.
asked me, "Mark, what do you want to do? You just had 2 great years." I said, "I want to go back to the Marquee." They brought me back to the Marquee as the assistant GM.
That's so amazing. It's so amazing. Now let's remind everybody that hotel has 2,000 rooms, right?
2,000 rooms, 1,500 employees, 250 plus $1 million in revenue.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, okay,
Yeah.
we're talking really right now to that full service hiring manager, whether it's GM, HR, whatnot. Um, why do they want to consider select service GMs?
No, just because you're going to get a passionate, well-rounded individual and who's
Yes.
who's hungry, and this person is not just taking it for granted. For them to the excitement of them getting into full service is like going from the minor league baseball to major league. I mean, those people have worked there, what off, and they deserve an opportunity. And
Yes.
with the right mentor, guidance, and all that, they could definitely, they could go toe to toe with any full service person. Believe me, a GM at a Courtyard is working a lot harder than a department head at a full service hotel. Trust me on that.
I think I would agree with you. You've had so many amazing opportunities that you probably were thinking, why the hell do they think I can do this? I mean, you've had some amazing opportunities that you've taken over and you've killed it every single time. But who is somebody in the trajectory of your life that saw something in you that you didn't see it yourself? And let's give them a shout out right now. Who is it that told you you could do this?
Honestly, I got to give a shout out to Jean Cohen. She was my boss at the Marquee when I was front office manager. According to what I know, she was the first female GM in the history of Sheraton. So
Oh,
she was ahead of her time. She eventually, believe it or not, became the GM of the Marquee. She was the only female GM of the Marquee ever in the history of the Marquee being open. To this day, she's the only female GM. And when I went as front office manager, now we're going before I went to Courtyard. When I went as front office manager, and the quick funny story about that is the GM, Jurgen Giesbert, who I mentioned before of the Marquee, he called me when I was the front office manager at the Long Island Marriott. He calls me up one day and he goes, "Mark, this is Jurgen Giesbert in his German accent." And he says, "I'd like you to come work for me as front office manager of the Marriott Marquis." Now, just note that I was already on my third front office manager position with Marriott. So I didn't want to be a front office manager again for the
right.
fourth time. So I said to him respectfully, "Mr. Giesbert, thank you so much for calling me, but I really am waiting to be an assistant GM at a full service hotel somewhere." And he goes, "Mark, let me just tell you one thing, and I want you to listen carefully." He said, "When the GM of the largest Marriott in the world calls you directly and asks you to work for him, there's only one answer, and the answer is yes." And I said, "Okay, Mr. Giesbert, you got me. I'll come work for you."
That's awesome.
That's true. That's true story. So anyway, but the thing that I didn't tell you is after I said yes, I started looking at all their scores, and guess what? This is before the Courtyard. The Marquee scores were terrible. Everyone just assumes because it's the largest Marriott in the world, it was great. Their friendliness scores were terrible. Their check-in speed was disgusting. Everything was bad. And the reason was when they built the Marquee, the computer system for the Marquee, no one thought about this, was the same megabytes memory as like Des Moines, Iowa.
Right.
And no one thought that the Marquee would have so many transactions and all this. So the computers ran. So you know how we get frustrated when our computers are running slow? Imagine 1,700 check-ins and each check-in takes 12, 15 minutes. It was the worst experience
Oh,
of my life. So to your question about which person changed my world, I get to the hotel and things are terrible. Jean Cohen, my boss, calls me into her office like after there a couple of weeks. She goes, Mark, I brought you here for a reason, as the GM, yeah, as the GM did, because you are very accomplished. But she said, look, our scores are terrible. And she said, you and I, Mark, have two choices. We could follow in our predecessor footsteps and just do enough to get by and still be in the 50s in GSS in our service scores, or we can change the world. And she said, and I said to her, what's involved in changing the world? And she said, and she as the resident manager lived in the hotel.
Oh, okay.
And she said, this is what I need from you. I need you to move into the hotel for the next 30 days. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, move into the hotel for 30 days. We'll do our general work during the day. Like we have to do check-ins and check-outs and all that
Yes.
stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're exhausted and tired and all that, I need you to bring your A game. We'll meet in my apartment. We'll have flip charts and all this stuff. We'll order in dinner and we're going to work on the strategic plan of how we're going to change the world. I spent 30 nights in a row doing that with her.
Wow.
She taught me more than any manager has ever taught me, and she rocked my world in what she taught me. She's taken classes at Harvard. She's brilliant,
Wow.
and she literally gave me my platform of leadership style for the rest of my career. We then implemented all the things that we discussed, and we changed the marquee scores from 50 to 80 to 90. And Mr. Marriott had no clue what the hell happened at the hotel that changed it. And he literally came to the hotel, met with her, met with me. He asked me to introduce him to every employee personally by name. He went to the front desk, thanked every desk agent,
Oh my
shook their
gosh.
hand. Unbelievable. And we literally changed the trajectory of the marquee with her leadership. So she is the one responsible.
That's amazing. Okay, you've got to take us all into this. Take us into you're in that apartment, you're in with your flip charts and you're strategizing. Give us one example. Can you remember one particular example of you said you were going to change this strategy, what you changed it to, and then how you step by step implemented it?
Yeah, that's the million. I could write a book about that,
You
Christy.
could.
I definitely could. And the answer to that is she literally had the ability, the KISS thing, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
She had the magic ability of taking Harvard level leadership
Complexity.
strategies, yeah, and bringing it down, dumbing it down for people like me and saying, Mark, this is how we're going to do it. And what she did is, people like if I walked into that operation without her tutelage and mentorship, it probably would be overwhelming, even for someone like me. Again, I don't say that arrogantly, just someone who's
No.
been a front office manager for the fourth time.
Right.
And she was able to break down. So to answer your question, we broke down all the different issues separately. So we said the luggage handling was a problem. So that became one bucket or strategic plan. Then the check-in became another one. So that was it. The speed of the computer, that was another one. The way we stored luggage in the basement when people checked in was a whole, yeah. So basically we listed all the problems, and then from that she was able to do, I forgot the Harvard name from the book, but basically what she did is we put all the different problems listed it, and she did a circle of all the problems. So it was like luggage, front desk, all this stuff. And then she would draw arrows. So she would say, if we fix problem one, does that help us fix problem two? Does it help us fix problem three? So she did a very scientific analysis.
Right.
And by doing that, we figured out, and this is a great lesson for everyone, another takeaway, but
Hmm.
if you figure out by which problem you resolve first helps resolve other issues, that's the one you should
To
spend most of
start
your
with.
time on. Yeah, because
Yes.
most people make the mistake. They think they know which problem is the biggest, but when you attack the one that helps you solve the other ones, that's kind of what we did. And then we called a meeting. She called it a MASH meeting, which stood for Make Alternative Suggestions Happen. And
Ah,
we brought in all the people like from the front door and from the desk, and we had a big mix of different titles in that room, and we brainstormed all these different buckets that we created, like the luggage delivery front desk. We asked everyone, write one issue that you think is a problem on a yellow sticky, but only one issue per sticky, and hand it to me and Mark. We collected 1,000 stickies. We put them all up, and she again had this incredible ability. She took all the stickies and she put them into subject categories. And so now under luggage delivery, we had 200 yellow stickies, and from that we created a strategic team to deal just with that. And we did that for 10 different initiatives. It was like a very intense thing, and we
Yeah.
started putting this stuff in motion, and we fixed everything within 6 months.
It's incredible. I wish I was in that room with you. Um,
Yeah.
it sounds very much like Six Sigma.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
100%. She was an expert on that too, but it
okay.
was just unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, there are books that we used. There was a teamwork book and some
Mhm.
other things, and she was just brilliant. I learned so much from her.
Yeah, what an amazing experience. You're very, very
Yeah,
fortunate to have been
yeah,
in the room where it happens.
100%,
Yes,
100%.
yes. Now, recently, this kind of ties into this. Recently, I've been talking to some of my Crown Society insiders, part of my hospitality club, about being a macro leader. This came up in one of their interviews that they had. And can you share anything for our select service GMs about being more of a macro leader? So, many of them have that goal to go into full service and be a GM of a full service property. What is some ways you had to have that learning curve of expanding from leading a small team to leading a bigger team, that macro vision?
Well, it's funny you say that. I could actually share an experience from the full service that talks to that. We during this challenging time when the check-ins were slow and bad,
Okay.
I because I knew the computer system inside and out, and I felt I could do check-ins faster than anyone. I would grab registration cards from the old age, and
Yep.
I'd bring them in the back, and I'd be in the back on four computers doing check-ins because I knew I could do them quickly. And one day, the general manager, Jurgen Giesberg, he comes in the back and he sees me. He goes, Mark, what the heck are you doing? And I go, oh, I'm doing check-ins, and he goes, Mark, you're the front office manager. You got to think more macro. He goes, we have desk agents who could do what you're doing now. He goes, I want you to manage the situation. He goes, I want you to be out there making sure the desk clerks have everything they need. I want you to be out there talking to guests. And if we have to give them free drinks or this or that, you need to manage the situation. I could get other people to do check-ins. So it was a big learning experience for
Yes.
me because I just felt like, hey, I could do, better doing the check-ins. But he taught me to be more of a macro thinker. And in to your point, in select service, it's probably even more important because in select service, you're probably used to doing the check-ins and the luggage and all that. But
Exactly.
you got to realize that you're there as GM for a higher purpose, and that is to manage other people, train them, mentor them, but so they can execute everything. And yeah, you could be the backup, the fill-in, and all that. But
Mhm.
to do all that yourself every day, you're probably not getting the most out of your skill set.
Right. It's the high level of things, just like what you did in that apartment in the evenings. You helped operationally during the day to get through the day,
Yep.
but then you
Yep.
strategically said, how do we make it better for tomorrow?
Yep.
Instead of every day just showing up to react to everything, now you come in with a plan to make
Yep.
this the process better. So yeah,
Yep.
that is the high level macro leader. And just looking out calendar wise, one of the things we do in the club is we plan our whole year in advance. And that is being a macro leader, thinking, what's happening in summer, what's happening here, and just looking at the year high level. And one of the things I'll say for any leader, when the crud hits the fan, to keep it clean, the some of the first things that go to the wayside are our leadership meeting, our huddles, and
Mhm.
those meetings because they're not something that we don't get through the day if we don't do them. But they're without those two things, your entire operation starts to fall. So we
Right.
might think it's something we can physically pass up on because everything else is so crazy, but that is going to lead to the destruction of everything. So
True.
yeah, so that would be an
Yeah.
advice for me because
Mhm.
I work with hundreds of hotel leaders,
Mhm.
and I often say, well, when's your leadership meeting? Well, you know what? Got off track with that, It's one of the first things to go. That and huddle.
Yep.
Right. I just think you're so amazing. People are gonna love your stories. Now, you're such a yes guy. Is there ever a time you wish you had said no?
Um, well. Two real quick personal things is
Okay.
I was what my wife's best friend is a marathon runner, and when we lived in the city, my wife asked me to go with her just to watch and root on her friend. I did. And then her friend at the end of the race, I congratulated her. Her friend said, "Mark, I think you should run the marathon someday." And I just started laughing because I was a couch potato, and I said, "Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen." And then next thing I know, I said yes in my own head, and I started training. I ran the 1999 marathon. I finished it, fantastic. And then I stopped running just because I figured I accomplished my goal. And then I
Right.
got bored and I said, wait, maybe I should run a second one. I ran the 2003 marathon. Then I didn't run again for another year and a half. I got bored again. I ran the 2005 marathon. And then lo and behold, I ran the 2008 marathon. I run 4 New York City marathons. So that was one thing maybe I should have said no to because it's a very intense training, all that.
Yeah.
Second quick thing is my son is a theater arts major.
Oh,
And when he was in high school, he would take, acting classes with a group. And they had a very cool thing. During the year, the kids would do the classes. In the summer, they did the switcheroo. They had the kids play choreographer, director, and all that. And I said to my son, who does the acting when you are directing? They said, oh, we're supposed to ask our parents to do it. So my son asked me the question, Dad, will you be in High School Musical 2? That's the show we're doing this summer. I go, no, I'm not an actor, singer. He goes, no, I'll get you a part where you don't have to sing, you don't have to dance. And I said, okay, well, if I don't have to sing and I don't have to dance, I'll support you because he was co-directing. So I agreed to be Mr. Fulton, who's the country club general manager in High School Musical 2. If anyone out there has ever seen High School Musical 2, let me just tell you, Mr. Fulton has the most lines of anyone in the show. He doesn't sing and he doesn't dance, but he's in every scene because the whole show is at the country club. So he talks to the kids, and then the kids start dancing and all that. But he's in every scene. I had 82 lines that I
oh,
had to remember, and I've never done acting or singing in my life. Fast forward, I've been in just like the marathon. Since then, I've been in 3 more shows. And you want to talk about yes moments? I had to be I played a role of General Schmitz in Seussical the musical, and I had a solo singing part. Never sang in my life, never sang. I had stage fright, Christine. Go 2 seconds before I had to go out there. I have to walk across the stage and sing a solo. Scariest moment of my life,
oh my.
scarier than any speech I've ever given to any hotel group of people. Scariest thing, but being vulnerable and doing something like that, very empowering.
Yes. So even though you're jokingly saying you would have said no, if you had said no to those things, you would be sitting here with regret.
You're probably right. Well, and I got to tell you, and both of them gave me so much confidence and empowerment. Running your first marathon is the most
Yeah.
crazy transformational experience of your life.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's amazing. And doing 4, forget it. Then you do the show and doing acting in a show, very scary. But when you have to sing and you're not a singer, it is like I know you jumped out of a plane. I haven't jumped out of a plane, but being on stage and singing in front of like 150, 200 people, never doing that before, the most vulnerable, empowering
Yeah.
moment of my life.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd rather jump out of a plane again.
Me too. Me too. I think so. I think so.
Yeah. And the audience would rather I jump out of a plane than sing to them.
Yeah, I think you're right too. Yeah, it was definitely the craziest moment of my life. But I will tell you, to your point, because we all talk about how saying yes to things changes your life, like it did
Yes.
my career. By saying yes to that moment, doing the musical stuff, the people in the show, this is true story, have become my wife and I's best friends.
Oh,
We formed a new friends group. From the day I accepted yes to that role, they are our best friends in the world since
see?
that day. Every weekend, we go to one of the people's houses just to get together because we just enjoy each other's company. And I have a newfound respect for actors and singers and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I will say, these guys in the group, they're like, really good. I'm Mr. Amateur, I whatever. But they are so good. I am wowed by them, but they're just such nice people.
Mhm.
And my son being a theater arts person, he's just a great kid and he has that same personality that they do. So I understand why he is attracted to that.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's literally changed my life and my wife's life because we are so busy with this new friends group for the last like literally 7 to 10 years.
That's so beautiful. And something else we have in common, my son is a theater major. He didn't take that in college, but all through eighth grade and high school, he was in every performance. And I did get to be in one of his shows.
See
Yeah, it was
that?
really
What
cute.
was your role? I need to know.
Actually, it wasn't necessarily a role per se. It was the one about the spelling bee. Was it called Spelling Bee?
Oh, it could be spelling bee. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got to be one of the people doing the spelling bee and answering the trying to spell.
I knew you had some theater in you,
Yeah.
Christine. I knew that.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
The
Now,
secrets are coming out now. The secrets are coming out.
yeah, they're oh yeah, oh God, the
Yeah.
secrets
They're
are coming
out. They're
out.
out there. Now everyone knows theater, marathon, select service. It's all
Right.
open. It's all open.
It's all over. Wise pineapples. Isn't Mark amazing? I have been trying to cut this down to make it an episode, but he's just too amazing. And I want you to have all of it. So I'm going to make this 2 episodes. So stay tuned next Monday, same place, same time, and you can hear the rest of what Mark has to share with us. You're going to love it. See you there. That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?